But what an amazing... I mean, I'll be doing a deep dive into your career and listening to a lot of stuff which I missed the first time round. I mean, you're pretty impressive. You're pretty impressive in terms of the amount of stuff you've done and the quality of it is quite something, you know. I mean, for instance, I've not heard the Ride Again EP, which is just great.
Oh, yeah, you like it? Cool.
Yeah. And, well, Richard Hall is a friend of mine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's from Sheffield as well. So, did he co-write some of these tunes, or was it all you guys?
It was just Siobhan and I.
Really good stuff. I mean, because it's in his... The reason I ask is because it's kind of similar to his style. And,
right.
And that's probably why... I don't know, was it the record company who came up with the idea of Richard doing a duet with you, you guys?
Yeah, it was suggested that we get somebody in to do a duet with us. Quite frankly, I wasn't familiar with Richard.
Oh, his stuff's great.
I know. I know. And when I was told about him, I was, of course, I checked out what he had done and wow. Amazing. And then Siobhan and I were invited to go to one of his shows in London while we were over there getting ready to perform, and just blown away.
Yeah,
blown away by him.
His voice is so rich and his guitar playing is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
He's a really talented dude. Anyway, I just thought I'd mention that. So who produced the Ride Again stuff?
Nick Launay.
Right, and what? And forgive me, I'm out of the loop a little bit. But has he done a lot of other famous stuff?
Oh yeah, Nick has a rich history producing a lot of rock and roll, like serious rock and roll. Oh God, who's that girl right now? It's like a current punk band. I can't remember her name, but I will Google it and send it to you. But they're amazing. I mean, he's worked with Iggy Pop. He was actually the engineer when I worked there at Clapton on the when I joined his band again in '84. I believe it was the Behind the Sun album. He was the engineer for that project. And he told me, and that's how I knew we had met before, but I was trying to place where. Yeah. Yeah, he was called in by Phil Collins because Phil was producing it. He was called in by Phil to do him a favor and engineer the album. And he's just a, master at what he does. He worked with Nick Cave, and
that's what it sounds like.
Right,
yeah.
right. And we even got Larry, Nick's drummer, to play on our songs, which was incredible.
It's got that filmic quality, which I just think suits the combination of your voices really beautifully, actually.
Yeah.
And
thank you.
And how was it getting back together?
Well,
I mean, I know this is out of chronological order, but I'm just interested.
No, that's fine. Well, initially it was very weird.
Right.
It was uncomfortable for me. I was invited. It was just kind of a strange and, I don't know, fateful kind of situation where Siobhan's manager reached out to my husband asking if I would like to have a chat with him. And, that was really surprising because he contacted us out of the blue. It was in March of 2018. And apparently he got my husband's number because my husband and Siobhan had a clandestine meeting. My husband, and I had no idea about this meeting. And this was a few years before 2018 even, to talk about, my husband wanted to kind of surmise where she was at, if there was any chance of us meeting up and resolving our differences. So he had my husband's number and contacted him out of the blue back in March of 2018 and said, would Marcy be interested in having a chat with me and possibly meeting up with Siobhan and, settling their differences or whatever, talk about maybe doing something together.
Right.
So, and then that happened finally in May of that year. And, when I first went to the meeting, I didn't know what to expect really, because, it was quite acrimonious.
Was it? I don't really want to dig into negative things, but
it was quite acrimonious. And so I didn't know really what to expect. Right. But we were able to explain and glean that, it was really a problem of there were too many people between us, giving us, misinformation. Not the proper information was being passed on. Unfortunately, it was not like her and I really got to have these conversations. It was always through managers. I had a different manager than she did. I had to at the time because her managers were not looking out for me. Like they left me stranded at hotels and having me pay for my own hotel bills. And it was crazy. So I thought, the only way I can do this if somebody is looking out for me. So obviously that put a wedge between things, and I realized that, but it was really the only thing that I could do at the time to make sure that I was properly protected and communicated to and with. So, we realized that was a problem. The communication was a big problem. And that's what caused a lot of,
problems, yeah.
Faults,
It's like Fleetwood Mac all traveling to the gigs in their own airplanes. It
wasn't quite that bad. We didn't have airplanes to go to gigs to, but, once in a while, we might do things, on our own and stuff. Yeah, it was just very awkward. So I didn't know what to expect. And it was glad to clear up some misconceptions. No, exactly. That's not exactly how it was. As you can hear my side of the story and vice versa. I heard her side of the story. So we were able to resolve those differences. And then it was suggested, because I was going to England in July of that year, and Siobhan was going to be there as well. I was going there to work with Eric Clapton again. I was joining him for the first time since 1985.
Wow.
Doing Live Aid. And, we did Live Aid in 85. And this was the first time I was invited to join Eric again after all that time to do the Hyde Park Summer Festival. And I was going to be there anyway doing a residency as well in London at this place called Boysdale. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I don't know it. Is that like a kind of members club or something?
Yeah, it's in
Canary Wharf. Yeah. I have heard of it, yeah.
Right. Jules Holland is a patron of it, and sometimes he comes there and sponsors the gigs. And
yeah.
Anyway, so I was going to be there, and I met with Siobhan, and my husband was with us, who was involved in the initial Shakespears Sister music, because he had one of the first computers and synths. It was called a Casio, and he sampled sounds for us that we used on things. And Siobhan, and he knew her, she knew him, obviously. And so when we were at this meeting with Siobhan and her manager and my husband and I, Lance, he was the one who suggested, why don't you guys try to write together? See if you still have that magic, right?
Right.
Because initially we were talking about just doing maybe a tour,
Yeah.
So he suggested that, and we were pretty excited about that. I was a little bit nervous because I didn't know what to expect. But anyway, we both realized that we have a lot of things in common, really. We're both really strong women with, serious opinions and drive.
Good.
And ideas of what we want. Well, it's good in some ways, and in other ways, it can cause problems. But anyway, so we realized that we both loved the desert. I loved Joshua Tree and hanging out in the desert here in Southern California. So we made a plan to go write. After we got back from London, it was October of that year. and we went to this Airbnb, and we wrote, like, the first song we wrote was our first single, All the Police Horse.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
I
love
brought
that song.
oh, thank you. Thanks. I brought my laptop. We went out into the desert. I brought all my equipment, for my little portable studio. And we recorded everything. And then Siobhan played it for Nick Launay. And he really loved it. And used a lot of the files that I created on the demos and kind of dropped those into when we actually did the recording. So yeah, that was the first time we wrote, and then we kept writing. We did another. We wrote, I think, about like 5 songs for an EP. Yeah.
I really. It's just a beautiful piece of work. I think you should be very proud of it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, not that my opinion means anything, but I'm just saying I've only heard it, so it's fresh to me. So that's why I'm saying it now. So let's just go back to the start, really, and how on earth did you end up, co-writing "Lay Down Sally" with Eric Clapton at such a tender age?
Right? I don't know.
It sounds like a very grown-up song. It sounds like the work of a mature songwriter.
Right. And at that point, well, okay, let me tell you how that came about, and I'll try to make it short because it is a little bit of a long story. But when I decided to get into music and make that my focus, I was going to college, and my major was art, my minor was music, and I also was interested in sociology. But I found I quit because I found music was much more immediately gratifying to me, and I would, for example, I'd sit in my room and play my guitar for like an hour, and then whenever I was feeling really emotional or it was all too much, I'd play and sing and feel better. I was in this park in the Detroit area at 18, and I was singing and playing, and I remember looking up at the sky and saying, "This is what I'm going to do with the rest of my life." And I just made that decision. I can still see it. I can picture it. I made that decision. And that's how it started. I was in a lot of bands in Detroit, and I ended up in a band called Julia. And we opened the pinnacle of my participation in that band was we opened for David Bowie in 1972. And then we were discovered by Bob Seger's manager, this guy named Punch Andrews. And he asked us to audition for Bob. So we did. And he kept all of this band. We toured for several months. Then he fired the rhythm section, and he hired these guys from Tulsa, Oklahoma, named Jamie Oldacre on drums and Dick Sims on keyboards. Dick kicked bass on the Hammond, so we didn't need a bass player. He was incredible, right? So then after that kind of, incarnation of Bob's band, after that was over, they invited me to move to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and people were like, "Tulsa, Oklahoma?
Oh, no. Yeah.
Why? Because Tulsa was a music mecca. Leon Russell, for one,
yes,
Wrecking Crew, was there, and there was Shelter Records. That was his company with Denny Cordell, and so I jumped on that opportunity. I was inspired by Leon Russell's backing singers. When he used to tour with Mad Dogs and Englishmen, he was a musical director. He did his own tours, and I'd go see him every time he came to Detroit. I loved Claudia Lanier and Kathy McDonald and Rita Coolidge and Bonnie Bramlett. I loved them all. So I moved to Tulsa, and we started a band, and we were the big fish in the little pond. I mean, everybody used to come and see us play, like the Gap Band and J.J. Cale.
Oh, the Gap Band. Oh, my God.
Right? And then Leon Russell came to see us and ended up wanting to hire me to be in his band. I also thought I was in love with him, so we were in a relationship for a minute. But me and Jamie Oldacre were hired to be in Leon's band, but Jamie left because what happened was Carl Radel of Derek and the Dominoes got a call from Eric after he took a sabbatical from music because of his, drug abuse problem. He called Carl and said, "I want to go back on the road." And Carl, and I'm looking for a band. And Carl said, come and check these guys out, which was us, right? So Eric came to Tulsa, and he came to this gig that we were doing, and sat in with us and wanted to hire us all. But I already committed to working with Leon, and there was no way I was not going to do that.
Right.
Because I also got to be that girl in the show that got to do a solo spot. And that was like a dream to me. If you told me when I started on my journey, you will be that girl, I never would.
Spotlight, the girl in the spotlight. How old were you then?
Let's see. It was in 1974, so I was 22.
Perfect timing.
Yeah. So after that ended, all the guys, though, Jamie and the whole band and Carl went off to join Eric, and they did the 461 Ocean Boulevard album. Oh. And after that tour, and after my tour with Leon ended and my relationship, I joined they invited me to come down to Jamaica, where they were recording There's One in Every Crowd. And
that must have been a terrible chore for you.
Oh, it was so bad, Martin. I mean, like, how horrible to get a call from Carl and my friends say, "Hey, come down to Jamaica and sing on this record." I was like, "Well, let me see what I have on my schedule, if I can make it."
Can I ask you, just to interrupt you for a sec, were you aware that you had a special voice at that point? I mean, or was it like you needed the confidence of? You wouldn't have considered going solo at that point, would you?
It was always my aspiration to do my own thing. But yeah, I used, like I said, I sang because I loved it, and it made me feel good to have this expression. It's kind of like a release.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that release. And then to see that people enjoyed it, I thought, oh, well, that's great. And when I first started doing music, it wasn't about, oh, I got to make some money.
Yeah.
I want to be famous. No, it was just about, I love music so much, and I have since I was a child. So it was a natural thing. But then it became a means to an end, because I started like, wow, you can do this and you can make money too. You can do something.
Unlike today, of course.
Well, unlike today. Yeah.
Unless you're performing live. That's about it.
Yeah, exactly.
So just rewinding a little bit from then, did you have musical training when you were growing up?
Yes. Well, first of all, my father and I used to sing a lot together. I loved harmonizing. So there was always music going on in our house, and my father played the ukulele, and he taught me how to play. But as soon as I went to school, when I started school at 5 years old, I was always in choirs, chorus. I started playing an instrument when I was 7. That was the violin. And then I went on to guitar. My father bought me a 12-string guitar. Then he bought me an electric guitar and a little amplifier.
How old were you then?
11.
Oh, there you go. Get in early. That's what I say.
Yeah. But I had been involved, playing the violin from the time I was 7 till 12, and then I gave up because it got too difficult and it just sounded like shit. So I just, was not tenacious with it. I didn't, pursue it, but I got more involved in guitar and rock and roll. I mean, I grew up in Motown in Detroit.
Yeah, listen, you're not going to look at that stuff, are you? So
no,
you're surrounded.
And
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah, I was surrounded by it. It was in school. It was ubiquitous. I mean, everywhere you went, you turn on the radio, there was, Stevie Wonder, there was Diana Ross, Marvin Gaye, I mean, The Temptations, you name it. Heavily influenced by that. But I loved the Beatles when they came out. I got to see the Beatles when I was 12, when they came to the States.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were
I was in the audience, and
all that British invasion stuff then, and Herman's Hermits and...
Oh, I was just wide-eyed and just soaking it up, man. I loved every second of it. But my father and mother, they loved the Beatles too. I bought all their albums, and like I said, I got to see them. And I remember the concert, and there were these 15,000 screaming girls, and I was sitting there going, "Shut
Yeah, so
I just want to hear them.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
But it was an amazing experience. It would have been great if I could have heard what they were playing, actually. But to me, they were so iconic in so many ways. And I stayed a fan. And at that point, if you would have told me, well, you'll be staying in George Harrison's house one day recording an album,
Wow.
I would have. No way.
So let's go back to the. So you're the girl in the spotlight on tour,
Yeah.
and everything's going well, and then you get invited to Jamaica, and let's pick the story up from there. So what happens next?
Right. So I go to Jamaica. I end up singing on about 5 or 6 songs on the album, and then Eric says to me a few days later after doing that, he said, "Would you like to be in the band?" And I'm like, let me think.
Okay.
Yeah. So then it was, I did some writing. Like we submitted a song for the next album, the No Reason to Cry album. There was a song called Hungry, that I wrote with Dick Sims, and Eric liked it. So that was on the album.
Great.
And also Eric and I wrote a song together on that album called Innocent Times. In fact, there's a line in it called, "With no freedom to laugh, there's more reason to cry." Those are my lyrics. And Eric called the album No Reason to Cry.
Oh, I see.
Which was interesting.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
But
that was
the good. Sorry, I was just going to say the good thing about getting into the writing world is all of a sudden you've got money coming in that's not necessarily associated with performing live. So you've got like an income, a default income coming in, right?
Yeah. Oh my God. It was great. But one bad part about it is they insisted on keeping my publishing. So they made me sign something, and they said, if you don't sign away your publishing to us, his manager, and I'm sure he was aware of it, if you don't sign your publishing, give us your publishing for anything you do with Eric, then we won't put your song on the record.
Oh, excuse my language. I was going to swear then. That's absolutely outrageous.
Right? So, and I wasn't really completely aware of what I was signing, because I was really young and, green around the gills. But I had to, even though I consulted with a lawyer, and he said, well, they say if you don't sign it, then your song won't be on the album.
That's outrageous.
I was like, okay. And that happened with every song I did with Eric. But the great news is then upon being seen as a bona fide, writer when I started working with Eric, that was the great part about it.
Yeah.
And I was very grateful.
Do you not get any royalties from Lay Down Sally?
Yes, I do. I get writer's share, and I get my mechanicals for being in the band, because they were generous and they gave us points for being in the band.
Oh, okay. So it's not all terrible. So
no, it's not all terrible, but it was just the publishing thing. I was a bit that would have been like double the money that I got.
No, at least, yeah. And you'd have you'd have had houses all over the world and be flying to your own gigs in aircraft.
Yes, and I'll have to join you in yours.
Yeah, exactly. So that's good. So moving on. Then you're a respected songwriter, right? And
then it became like. And you asked about Lay Down Sally, how that came about. Well, we were in London recording what would become the Slow Hand album, and that was in 1977. And Eric said to me, "Hey, Marcy, I want to write a song called Lay Down Sally." So I picked up a guitar. I like titles.
Yeah.
I don't know if you write like that, but I love titles.
I generally get a title first and then write a song from it. Yeah.
Right. A title that you can really get has some kind of juicy something that really inspires you, that you feel like you can tap into some kind of vein that is going to give you a lot of inspiration, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We were really into Little Feat back then at Bo Diddley, second line kind of New Orleans stuff. And I just picked up a guitar, and it was a whole different groove.
Yeah, good.
When the song first started, it was more like a bump, 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 bump. And I started singing Lay Down Sally, that melody. I don't know where it came from. Sometimes you just pull them out of the air.
Yeah.
You're like a vehicle for, with this transition going through you, right? So that's how it started. And then we worked on it all day. The band was there. We were in the studio. In those days, it wasn't like you brought the music all prepared and ready to the studio. Oh, you froze. Are you there?
Did stuff.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
Froze.
Sorry, you do. Yeah, you just kind of work things out in the studio.
Oh, you froze for a minute. Oh.
I'm sorry. I was saying generally you work.
Yeah, we worked it out in the studio.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we did. So Glyn Johns was producing, and it was about 5 hours. We were working on the song that way. We had the chorus all written. George Terry and Eric and I, and the band was just kind of hanging around. Then the keyboard player, Dick, got bored, and he left, go back to the hotel or whatever. And then we couldn't really come up with a verse that sounded good. It didn't sound right. And then all of a sudden, Eric starts playing that iconic groove.
Yeah.
Like the kale kind of groove.
Yeah.
And it's sounding great. And the chorus really worked with that, but there was no verse, really, no melody or lyric for it. So Glyn was like, "Okay, everybody, we got to record this now. It's sounding great. So get behind your instruments and I'm going to press record." So we all did. I got behind the piano. If you listen, the piano part is really, it's so simplistic. I'm not really a great pianist, but I came up with a simple part that worked, and everybody, played their really cool bits, and it was recorded. And Eric said to me, "Okay, go back to the hotel tonight and write the lyric and the melody for the verses." So I did. Came back the next day, and then we recorded our vocals, and then several months later, it started climbing the charts. It ended up getting to number 4 in the Billboard charts and went gold. We were all like, oh, really surprised.
So from that point, right, you've got a big hit. Eric's going, "Hold on, we've got to pin this girl down and make sure that she's part of it all." So what happened after that? And did you write? I mean, was there any further big hits in the U.S. charts?
On that album, I wrote another song called "The Core," which was a really, really popular AOR hit that was played on FM radio a lot. And I love that song, and people really love that song and always comment to me how much they love it. It was the same kind of thing. It was like a jam thing, and I got an idea for the title and what I wanted it to be about. It's about being alive and feeling really vital, and just wanting to really live life to the fullest and feel everything. So in total, I wrote about 8 songs with and or for Eric. Let's see, we toured for the Slow Hand album. We toured all over the world, and about a year later, well, actually it was in 79. It came out in 77, and in about 79, I was, without my knowledge, I was let go from the band. I was fired. Yeah, I was fired. A friend of mine called me from London and said, hey, Marcy, did you know you're no longer in the band? I'm like, what? I'm no longer, what happened? Oh. He said, yeah, I just read an article in the Melody Maker magazine that you're no longer in the band. I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. And what happened was, because well, this is kind of personal information, and I probably shouldn't say it, so I won't really in detail. But I commented on something Eric was doing with a friend of mine, and he didn't like it, and
Oh, that was it.
I knew
Right.
I was fired.
Yeah, okay.
But okay, that was okay because I was already in that band for 5 years, and a friend of mine suggested move to LA. You know, that's where you should get out of Tulsa. It's like you've done as much as you can do there.
Yeah.
So move to LA, and then I moved to LA, and then the session work doors completely opened up for me.
And by this time,
nonstop.
by this time, presumably your voice had matured a little, and it's like suddenly you're realizing the power that you had at your disposal, because you have a fantastic voice. There's no doubt about it. And the interesting thing, what I've noticed listening to different periods of your voice, is it still has this wonderful kind of youthful quality, even right up to the current day. But it's kind of matured in terms of its articulation. I mean, you know, I've worked with a lot of very famous, you know, Tina, obviously, I worked with, and all, you know, lots, and I've worked with, you know, a lot of, I mean, Shaka Khan and various other people. So I kind of specialize in female voice production. It's a pity that I've never had a chance to do anything with you, because I really love your voice, basically.
Yeah, I would have loved to work with you.
Well, maybe one day. Who knows?
Maybe one day we will.
Record companies don't generally give you the money to do things nowadays.
Yeah, I know.
That's the problem. So you went to LA, and you're writing for a lot of people and getting session work and stuff. And then, so what year are we in now, roughly?
I moved to LA in 78.
78. Wow. Yeah. And so you did that for how long? For how many years were you there?
Well, I'd started doing session work that year. I was introduced to this amazing engineer, Umberto Gatica, who was David Foster's right-hand man. And I was introduced to David Foster and like never stopped working with some of the best producers of all time, like David. And, you know, he was hired to do an album on me. We did 4 or 5 tracks, and it was the label RSO didn't like it. It was a little bit too slick.
Right.
They were expecting something a little more rock and roll, you know, from Eric, something more in that vein, even though the songs were kind of like that, but I guess it was just a little too slick for them. And but then I went on to work with I worked with David some more, even though, you know, the album was rejected, but he called me to do loads of work, like with Alice Cooper and Daryl Hall, you know, Hall and Oates.
Oh, fantastic! Did you sing on any of their hits?
Not on any of their hits. No, more obscure stuff.
Right.
But I did a lot of sessions with Daryl, and also with Bill Champlin from Chicago and Sons of Champlin. And then I started. Yeah, right. Me too. It's like part of the stuff that formulated who I was as a, you know, as a listener, as an artist as well. And then I started working with some other fantastic producers like Arif Mardin, who is
Arif,
famous to work.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah,
what a producer. He produced Scrittability, didn't he, as well? I met him in New York, actually. Really, really sweet guy and super talented.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really talented.
Yeah.
Really cool.
And he says that I've been looking at your thing, and it says you work with Robin Gibb as well. Is that right?
Sorry?
Robin Gibb?
Yeah. Well, that all came about through the RSO connection. You know, Eric, that's the label was signed. The label was signed to Robert Stigwood, right?
Yeah.
And even though my record didn't come out, Robert was still trying to help me, and he put me together. In fact, that's the name of the song. So funny that I said that. It must have been a subconscious thing.
Yeah.
That's he put me together with Robin to see if he could, you know, write a hit for me. And Robert wrote a duet for us called "Help Me." which was in his Times Square movie. So I went to work with Robin on that. We did a duet. I came to London. We did a video for it, and it didn't like, break any, chart history or anything. But what an honor to work with Robin, because he was so amazing. Yeah. And then he called me to do a duet with Jimmy Ruffin, because he was producing an album.
I wrote with Jimmy Ruffin.
You did?
We wrote a song that he sang for us called "The Foolish Thing to Do." It was on. It was kind of mid-80s. It came out as a separate single away from an album called "The Foolish Thing to Do." Oh. And he also we did a cover version with M17. We also did a cover version of "My Sensitivity." The beautiful Luther Vandross song.
I know. Yeah.
And
what a voice!
Yeah, Jimmy's an interesting character. God damn, he can sing, but he's got a big chip on his shoulder about his brother. Oh, he did. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I didn't really get any of that. I didn't really talk to him much about anything personal, but you spent more time with him than you would know. Yeah, I mean, we did. I did this duet with him, and it was really great and an honor too, because "What Becomes of the Brokenhearted" was one of my favorite songs of my youth.
What a great song!
It's like everything.
Yeah,
those chords, the changes, like crazy.
He told
so inspiring.
Yeah. He told me the story
Tell me the story.
Yeah, that they all used to hang around the Motown studios and stuff, and people would pop in and out, and it was like a big kind of family vibe. And they'd just written "What Becomes of the Brokenhearted" for Dinah Ross. And she was just not around. People couldn't contact her. And Jimmy happened to be in the studio and said, "Do you mind if I have a go at that?" And so he did. And that was that. That made his life, right? Oh, sorry, did he get that? Hello?
Wish I could hear you.
Oh, I'm
frozen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Am I back?
That's all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. He just happened to be in the studio when Dinah Ross couldn't make the recording. It was written for her. And so he just said, "Do you mind if I have a crack at this?" "Well, we've got the orchestra, we've got whatever it is, the musicians. Just go and have a go." That's fate, right? So,
wow.
Yeah. So
it was a huge, huge hit for him, right?
Massive, massive. So let's move on, because we're running out of time. So, I mean, I could talk to you all day. Let's move on to, let's fast forward a bit to Shakespears Sister, how it kind of initiated. Tell us about that.
How did it happen?
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I was doing a lot of session work, and I was working a lot also with this friend of mine, Richard Feldman, who was from Tulsa and was a great writer and musician himself. One day he noticed he was getting new neighbors. It's like a suburb of LA, and he went to introduce himself, and it was Siobhan and Dave Stewart.
Right.
And he befriended them. He said, "Hey, look, I got a studio in my house, and if you guys ever want to do anything, let me know." So then he starts becoming more friendly with them, and tells me that he's going to be doing some writing with Siobhan because she's thinking about leaving Bananarama. She has an idea for what she wants to do, and it's called Shakespears Sister. She got the name from a Smith song, and they started working together. And he called me and said, "Maybe this might be good for you. You should come and write with us one day. See if it's a good fit. I think your voices would work really well together."
Yeah.
And really complement each other. And you can come and play, whatever you want to, and sing and write with us. So I did that, and after a while, it was like, wow, we've tried a few songs, and like "Break My Heart," I think, was one of the first one. "Could You Be Loved," which was a Bob Marley and Wailers cover, and the label liked it. And so then we just went over to England to do more writing, and he called me after a few weeks and said, "Oh, you should come over here and join us, do some writing with us." I'm like, okay. I went over, and that was really it. That was me being in the band, not officially. I was more of a hired hand still, but my contribution, by the time we got to doing Your History, which we wrote at the 11th hour because the label still didn't hear a single, that
one.
Single. So we were in New York, and we put all our heads together. We got Pat Seymour from the Eurythmics helping us, and Richard and Siobhan and I, and we're in this room, and we just kind of started hammering out ideas. Okay, what about this? Let's spend a few minutes on each one. Think of the best ideas you can. And then Your History came about, and everybody was like, that's the one. And the label loved it. And that was the big single from the Sacred Heart album.
Right.
Yeah, and then my role became more integral to the band. So when we started the second album, I was asked to be a 50% member.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
That's more like it. Right.
Yeah.
So, and then, of course, Stay.
Yeah.
It's your absolutely stellar moment. And, it was number one for 8 weeks, right, in the UK.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the video sold it incredibly well, right?
Mm.
But you looked amazing on it. You sounded amazing. It was a very poignant, kind of simple story, and it was just a great idea. The whole thing worked so beautifully, didn't it? And that kind of darker thing with Siobhan, and and the kind of looked like somebody who should have been in Ridley Scott's Legend, as the wife of the devil or something. And
she did that really well.
Yeah, she certainly did. She knocked that one out of the park, I think.
Oh, yeah.
But you were both great in that, and I think it's hard to imagine it without the video, but it's such a beautiful song and the contrast between the darker, kind of heavier drum part and the lighter thing embodied by your voice is so affecting, and then the kind of stratospheric high soprano bits, and it just all works. And I'm a big fan of that song, and I know it's not a coincidence it was number one for so long. Let's put it that way. How did you know it was going to be a big hit?
Well, actually, when Siobhan and I started writing for that album, it was a concept album. We were introduced to this film by Dave. He said, "Check out this film. It's called Cat Women from the Moon." And you can watch it on YouTube now. It's only an hour long, but it's like a 1950s cheesy B sci-fi movie.
Right.
And we were going to try to buy the rights to the film and superimpose ourselves into it. But that proved to be a bit costly. So we still used the film as inspiration for a lot of the songs. And in Siobhan and I, had written several songs, and they used to have these parties, these great parties, like where, you'd see Timothy Leary walking around, and Roy Orbison and George Harrison and Tom Petty. I mean, everybody would come to these parties, and always at the end, we'd all sing, we'd all jam, right?
Right.
So I used to sing some beautiful ballads, and while we were in the middle of writing this album, it was on a Sunday morning at about 9:30 a.m., and somebody comes, banging on the door, and my husband comes to wake me up, and he goes, "Dave and Siobhan are here, and Dave wants to talk to you about something." And so I get up, and we go into my little studio, and he says, "You know how you always sing these beautiful ballads at our parties? Well, I think we should model a song for you that will feature you on the album." I'm like, okay. And he had this whole idea.
Good idea.
He had the first verse. The whole first verse, if this world is wearing thin, you're thinking of escape, blah, blah, blah. If you try to go alone, don't think I'll understand, and got to the chorus, and that's where he stopped. And I don't know, I just started singing, stay with me. It just was just like
wow,
a really natural thing that happened, like right in the moment. And so we worked on that, and then we wrote the second verse, and then And it was like, well, we need to write a middle eight for Siobhan. So we did that. You know, after Siobhan and I finished writing the song and I recorded it in my little home studio, we took it over to Dave's and Siobhan's place. And Chris Thomas, the producer, was there. And because he was producing Dave's Spiritual Cowboys album. And everybody was having dinner. They said, oh, let's hear what you guys are working on. So we popped in the cassette and Stay came on. And Chris, afterwards, he jumped up, he slammed the table. #1 smash.
He was right.
Really? We didn't, I certainly didn't get it. No, but I was really, really surprised. And he ended up, you know, producing that song. He didn't produce the album, but he produced that song because and the song went through many, you know, sometimes you have a song that you feel like it's not as good as it could be, or it needs some changes. So it went through several incarnations. But in the end, Chris was like, I love the first version I heard. I want that vocal. I want those background vocals. And so, you know, in those days, we didn't have the technology to just be able to send sound files through the internet.
Yeah, that's right.
We had, like, you know, I had to send, I just had a little Fostex 8-track, and I just sent everything over to London where he was working on the album. Incidentally, we recorded the album at George Harrison's studio at Henley on Thames at his own studio, which was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
Truly the experience. But Chris wanted those vocals. You can hear at the end how my vocal starts drifting off, you know, because it really didn't have MIDI quite down yet.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, that was like in 91. We didn't quite have it down yet. So it starts to drift at the end. But he put that vocal in, and he put the backing vocals in, and he did a fantastic job.
Oh, it sounds great. It sounds great.
Yeah.
You sound great. Siobhan sounds great. Everything's great about it. But
yeah.
Whose idea was the video and the narrative for that?
Good question. Well, you said you couldn't imagine the song without the video, which is interesting. Nobody could come up with an idea for the video. Even our gifted, wonderful, award-winning friend Sophie Muller, who did all of our videos, she couldn't come up with an idea. My husband, also a videographer as well as a musician, he had his own company in London. He was trying to get it off the ground. It was called Talent Bank. And he came up with an idea for it. He came up with the idea that, well, first of all, just a little bit of the story. In the movie, we are cat women on the moon. These earthlings come to visit. My character in this scene falls in love with an earthling and says, begs him to stay with her. Okay. So Lance comes up with this idea. We have a meeting with Sophie. We say, come over, Sophie, and check this idea out. So he tells her the idea. Marcy is singing to this man that she loves, and he's about to die. And Siobhan is the angel of death that comes at his weakest point and tries to take him away. That was his idea, and he was also the first AD and the first assistant director on the shoot, which was great. And then Sophie, made it look all relevant by having us be on this spaceship on the moon. You can see the moonscape in the background and the what do you call it? Comets going by and all that stuff. Yeah, so she did that in her own superlative, inimitable way. And that was it. That idea, and it worked really, really well.
A great idea. I often thought, because you saw it every week on Top of the Box, right? So it gets embedded in your head. I often thought, is it from a film? I mean, or is it going to be from a film? Like at that point in the 80s in particular, they used to do stuff that would just kind of appear in films. where there'd be a kind of song just appear out of nowhere, and then it'd go back to the plot. And I thought, oh, it'd be great, wouldn't it? You could write an entire film around that anyway. It'd be good.
Yeah. Well, it was sort of a film within the concept of the album. It was a film unto itself, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Okay, we're coming to the end, but I always ask people stupid questions at the end, like it's kind of a smash hits thing. And I don't give anyone kind of advance warning because I like the spontaneity of the answers. So what's your favourite film?
Ooh.
One of them, it doesn't have to be a definitive. I'm not going to hold you to it.
One of them. Yeah, that's hard.
There must be a film that you go back to from time to time and derive something new from it. Maybe?
Yeah. There are many. I loved American Beauty.
Yeah.
That really sticks out to me.
It's a great film.
Yeah. Of course, I always loved The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. How many times have we seen that shit?
I never knew when I was growing up.
Every Christmas, every Easter, every bank holiday. Favorite book?
Favorite book? I love this book called Love in the Time of Cholera.
That's a great book. Yeah, I've read that.
Yeah, unrequited love.
You're a romantic, aren't you? I can tell.
I am.
Yeah. Oh, shucks. TV program. It can be a vintage one, or it can be current, or a box set, or whatever you want.
You know what? My husband's British, and we love British cop shows.
Really?
We are obsessed. Yeah. I love Line of Duty.
Yeah, it's good. Line of Duty. Good Lord. That's been the biggest hit on TV in the UK. Yeah, probably for the last 10 years.
Yeah, I also love Luther as well. Luther was great.
Luther was good, yeah. What about old cop shows? Any of those? Old ones?
Old cop shows?
Yeah. Like there were some 1970s ones like Callan and, oh God, there were some amazing ones.
We love some British ones. Yeah, we love some British ones, some older ones. There's one called, I think it was Morse or Endeavour.
Endeavour, yeah, Morse as well. Morse.
We love that.
Yeah, okay. Who's your favourite other musical artist? Or composer?
Huh?
Or composer?
Or composer. Stevie Wonder has never ceased to amaze me.
Yeah.
I love everything he's done. Yeah, he's one of my favorites for sure.
Have you seen that documentary that's just come out called Summer of Soul?
Yes. Oh my God, I love that.
I was weeping. It was so beautiful. God.
Me too.
Yeah.
Nina Simone in that.
Oh my God.
Unbelievable. Wasn't she? I get chills thinking about it.
She was. I was lucky enough to see her perform at Ronnie Scott's.
Oh, really?
But kind of towards the end of her career, when she was crotchety, really.
Yeah, a bit militant. Yeah.
Yeah, and all that. Anyway,
understandably,
it was great. Favorite visual artist?
Oh.
Or conceptual, artist.
Well, Van Gogh has always been one of my favorites.
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. Which of your own work are you most proud of?
I did a song on my Jewel album that Chris Thomas produced called The Art of Melancholy, which I love. I'm really proud of it.
I listened to it, yeah. It's beautiful.
Because it's really unusual, and I love the lyric of it and the structure of it, yeah.
And finally, well, not finally, first of all, before I say the final one, you are bringing out a retrospective set of your work, aren't you?
Well, no, it's not a retrospective. It's actually a new album. Like during lockdown, I wrote about 70 songs.
Oh, sure.
And yeah, and it was really the only way to deal with, what was going on in the outside world, to be creative and focus. And then after culling them, I realized, well, I have at least an album here.
Yeah.
So we've been working on that feverishly to get that done, and we're like taking pre-orders on that now. So, excuse me, just finishing it up and mixing it and getting it done. Yeah, it's kind
That's
of
on your website, right?
Yeah, you can order it through there, marcelladetroit.rocks. And it's
rocks.
.rocks, baby. Yeah, my husband found he loves finding all these interesting URLs, and he found that one. I'm like,
that's good. So yeah,
that's a good one.
Finally, what's your favorite synth?
My favorite synth.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Kind of keeps it on message for the whole electronically yours thing. That's why.
Right.
I mean, you must have used a few in your life.
Yeah. I mean, I still have my DX7.
Right.
And I still use that for my controller, which is great. But I don't know, it has really kind of stock sounds in it. But it's been a great MIDI controller. But one that has always mesmerized me, and I never really spent much time with, was the Synclavier.
Yeah, they were good, weren't they? And when it first came out, it blew my mind, because for the first time, I could do a string section that actually sounded like a string section. With detaché kind of stuff and pizzicatos that actually sounded real when you played them. I'm going, Jesus. Of course, it's like common as muck now, but at that point, it was an amazing thing, right? But so that's your choice, yeah?
Yeah.
Good. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
My
pleasure.
We hopefully will meet in human form at some point. That'd be a lovely thing. So if you're ever in town, please let me know. And you never know, we could meet up, and maybe you come to one of our shows, or I could come to one of yours, or we could just go and have a pint.
That'd be great. I'd love that. I hope to get over there sometime when things are a bit more calm.
Yeah, it'll improve. It'll improve.
Yeah.
Are you fully vaccinated?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. You'll be okay. All right, darling. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Great to talk to you, Martin.
All right. Cheers.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.